You don't escape this place without scars in Hollywood. You're either part of the show, or you're the warning story. And Mel Gibson? He's the rare case who's been both. A list fame, tabloid takedowns, Oscar wins, Exile, resurrection for decades. Mel was one of the most recognizable faces in the world until he started speaking out. Not just about his faith, but about the underbelly of Hollywood. The things no one is supposed to say, the things that sound too insane to be true until you realize he's not the only one saying them. Why did Hollywood turn on one of its biggest stars? What exactly did Mel see? And why does he still believe, even after all the hell he's been through, that we're in the middle of a very real war between good and evil? Today, we dig deep into Mel Gibson's life and what made him walk away from the fame, the money, and the system only to come back stronger. The Hollywood outcast. He was never meant to be long before he became Hollywood's most unpredictable icon. Mel was just another rising star with a unique intensity. Born in New York and raised in Australia, he had the looks, the charisma, and that rare electric presence on screen. Mad Max, Gallipoli, Lethal Weapon. He didn't just act, he took over every scene. By the 90s, he was the ultimate leading man and action hero who could deliver Shakespeare-level drama, but something always seemed a little off. Mel wasn't interested in playing by Hollywood's rules. He didn't mingle with the elite. He didn't buy into their polished personas. And behind the scenes, he often questioned what the industry was really about, because no matter how bright the lights were, Mel always felt the shadows creeping in. He once said that early on, there was a lot of stuff I couldn't understand. People acted strange, opportunities came with invisible strings. There were games being played, but no one would explain the rules. And when he finally started figuring it out, he left. A brutal awakening. You'll find out if you go there. During an early conversation with another actor, Mel was told something he'd never forget. In New York, you might get mugged. People are blunt, even aggressive, but it's out in the open. In Los Angeles, they want to sacrifice you. Mel laughed at the time. It sounded like a bad horror movie line. But the more time he spent in the inner circles of Hollywood, the more it started to feel like a bad horror movie. He described it like walking into a weird little town, one where the locals all go quiet when you enter the room, where you're warned don't go into the house on the hill, and where everyone's smiling while hiding the knife behind their back. Paranoia, maybe, but years later, Mel would realize his worst suspicions weren't just paranoia. Some of the darkest things he sensed early on were true, and it broke him. The disappearance. Mel vanishes at the height of his fame. Mel walked away. No headlines, no press release, just silence. He bought a farm, raised cattle, milked cows, grew organic vegetables. He unplugged from the Hollywood system completely. But this wasn't just about nature or needing a break. This was about survival. Mel felt that if he didn't step away, he'd lose himself completely. The system was pulling him into deep. The game was being played at a level he didn't want to be part of, and he wasn't sure where it ended. So he took control the only way he could. By leaving. But even out on the farm, Mel knew he wasn't done. There was still something inside him, a story he needed to tell. A truth that hadn't been shared, a film that would make the entire world uncomfortable. And in 2004, he came back with it. The passion. Hollywood tried to bury him for this. The Passion of the Christ wasn't just a film. It was a spiritual declaration of war. Mel poured everything into it, his faith, his pain, his convictions. He believed in the story with every cell in his body. Not as a metaphor, as fact, but Hollywood? They hated it. Studios refused to fund it. Executives warned him not to make it. Critics dismissed it before it even premiered. Why? Because The Passion wasn't just a film, it was an unfiltered confrontation with the brutal reality of the crucifixion. And to Mel, the message was clear. Jesus didn't die for some people. He died for all of us, for our mistakes, for our nature, for our redemption. Mel believed that deeply. But speaking that kind of truth in Hollywood, it cost him everything. He was mocked, blacklisted, demonized in the press. But what most people didn't see was how much that film meant to him personally. The testimony, Mel's real resurrection for Mel, the passion wasn't just about Jesus' suffering, it mirrored his own, because at that point, Mel was battling his own demons. Alcohol, drugs, self-destruction, fame hadn't saved him. It had almost killed him. I was on a downhill run, he admitted. And nothing could stop me from doing that. Nothing until he turned to something bigger than himself. Mel says he asked for help from God, and for the first time, he found the strength to stop. No rehab center, no celebrity program, just faith. He calls it a miracle, a resurrection, and it changed everything. From that moment on, Mel became a different kind of figure, not just a movie star, but a man with a message. One that made people uncomfortable, one that didn't align with the polished narratives the media liked, but one that was painfully real, because who better to talk about redemption than someone who needed it just as much as the rest of us? The exposer. Mel calls out Hollywood's rot over the years. Mel started calling out the system more directly. He hinted at agendas. He spoke about power games. He made cryptic, but clear references to forces that operate behind the scenes, ones that don't care about art or truth, just control, and people didn't know how to react. Some dismissed him. Others started listening, especially when more stories started coming out about real abuse, corruption, and cover-ups in the industry. Suddenly, Mel didn't sound so paranoid. He sounded like a whistleblower. He even supported The Sound of Freedom, a film that exposes the underground trafficking world, a film mainstream Hollywood refused to promote. Coincidence? Maybe, but Mel seems to know things most people don't, and he's not afraid to say it. The gospel according to Mel. Faith over fame these days. Mel doesn't pretend to be perfect. In fact, he's brutally honest about his flaws. He knows he's made mistakes, big ones, public ones, but that's exactly why his message hits so hard. He talks about grace, about redemption, about the freedom that comes from letting go of control and trusting something higher. He prays every day. He meditates, he works out, he reflects, and every day he reminds himself, we come in with nothing. We leave with nothing, but if you seek first the kingdom of God, you'll always be okay. That's a message he got from his father, and it's one he's still clinging to decades later, not because it's popular, but because it saved him. The legacy, from canceled to unshakable despite everything. Mel is still here. Still making movies, still telling stories, still speaking truth. He's currently working on The Passion of the Christ, Resurrection, a sequel that many believe will be even more controversial than the first. But Mel doesn't care about controversy anymore. He cares about legacy. He's in what he calls his third act. He knows time is short. He's thinking about eternity, about impact, about what comes after. And in a world obsessed with clout, fame, and instant gratification, that kind of long view is powerful. It's dangerous. It's rare. And it's exactly why Mel Gibson is still a name people can't ignore. Final message. Why are we the meat in this sandwich? In one of his most intense moments, Mel asked a haunting question. Why are the big realms of good and evil slugging it out for the souls of mankind? Why are we the meat in that sandwich? It's a question most people never stop to ask. But Mel has. He's been broken. He's been mocked, he's been silenced, and still, he keeps pushing forward. Not because he's fearless, but because he knows what's real. Because somewhere along the way, Mel Gibson saw through the illusion, and he decided to fight back. Not with rage, but with faith. With storytelling. With the truth. So the next time you hear someone talk about Mel like he's crazy or problematic, ask yourself this: is he crazy, or did he just stop pretending? Please subscribe to my channel for more extremely exciting celebrity news.